Hi, welcome to another episode of Let's Talk About Wine. If you love wine like I do, chances are you've thought about what it would be like to own your own winery. I mean, what could be better than having an endless supply of great wine that you could share with your family and friends, especially wine that you'd had a hand in making yourself? Well, Jim Baker, who owns Chateau Niagara, likes to say, anyone who has too much time and too much money should own a winery, because owning a winery fixes both of those problems. So maybe many of us wine-loving Walter Mitty's are fortunate in that we don't have the money to make the investment in order to pursue that dream. But for a lot of actors, entertainers, musicians, and other celebrities, having an ample amount of money to invest isn't a problem, which may help to explain why many of them have gotten involved in the wine business. Now, just putting a celebrity name on a wine label doesn't guarantee its success. But on the other hand, having plenty of money to buy the right land, the right equipment, the best help certainly doesn't hurt. And there are a lot of really good celebrity wines out there today. In this episode, we're going to take a look at 3 of them. We're going to start off with the wine from a sweet, swinging South African with a great nickname who made his fame and fortune as a professional golfer in the 1990s and early 2000s.
Ernie Els rose to fame as a professional golfer in the 1990s by winning the U.S. Open Golf Championship in 1994. He continued his winning ways during the rest of the decade and on into the next, and eventually achieved the ranking of the #1 golfer in the world, a title that he earned 3 separate times during his career. The South African was given the nickname the Big Easy due to his imposing height, fluid golf swing, and easygoing manner. In the late 1990s, Els was bitten by the wine bug and decided to pursue his passion for fine wine with the creation of Ernie Els Wines. He chose Stellenbosch, a city in the Western Cape area of South Africa, as the home for his winery. Today, Ernie Els Wines produces nearly a dozen different wines, including several that are sold under the Big Easy brand.
Like its namesake, Ernie Els Chenin Blanc is smooth and stylish. It's made from 100% Chenin Blanc grapes that were harvested from 3 different appellations in the Western Cape area of South Africa. It was fermented entirely in stainless and saw no oak. On the nose, it's complex, with hints of strawberries and peach, and in the mouth it has a nice round mouthfeel with medium body. It has some complexity and some minerality, and a moderate to long finish. It's a great value-priced wine at $17. The next wine is a Pinot Noir from a California winery that bears the name of its famous founder. It could be a name that many millennials don't recognize, but certainly most baby boomers would recognize the iconic coonskin cap that's on the cork enclosure from every bottle.
Fess Parker was a tall, easygoing actor with a smooth Texas drawl and leading man looks who became a star in the 1950s and 60s, primarily through his roles as 2 of America's most famous frontiersmen, Davy Crockett and Daniel Boone. He had a 50-plus year career as an actor in the movies and on TV, which provided him with the wealth to start a second career as a winery owner. In the early 1960s, Parker purchased property in Foxen Canyon near Santa Barbara. He initially planned to raise cattle and maybe plant a few grapes to sell to other vintners. Eventually, though, the allure of owning his own winery won out, and the property was transformed into a multi-acre vineyard and winemaking operation. Today, the Fess Parker Winery and Vineyard encompasses nearly 700 acres of vineyards and a state-of-the-art winery and tasting room. The winery specializes in flavorful California reds and whites, including Syrah, Cabernet Sauvignon, and Chardonnay. But Pinot Noir wines are its specialty. The Fess Parker Pinot Noir St. Rita Hills was produced primarily from fruit that came from the winery's Rio Vista vineyard, with smaller contributions from the winery's Parker West and Ashley vineyards. It was aged 12 months in 1/3 new French oak and is a brilliant ruby in color. On the nose, it has aromas of cherry, wild strawberry, baking spice, toast, and maybe some vanilla. Shows a lot of typical Pinot characteristics. It's medium-bodied with plenty of fresh fruit. Has flavors including things like cherry, cranberry, raspberry, and some vanilla contributions from the oak. It's a fairly complex wine at a reasonable price point, and it's typically sold at around $30 per bottle.
Our third wine is from a winery that's owned by a family of an entertainment icon, a name that's recognized worldwide, Walt Disney.
During his lifetime, Walt Disney was consumed with a passion for creating new forms of entertainment through the perfection of the art of animation and the creation of theme parks, the likes of which the world had never seen. So it's not surprising that he himself had neither the time nor the interest in getting into the wine business. But after his death, his widow Lillian, their daughter Diane, and her husband Ron Miller began purchasing small vineyards near Napa Valley. The original intent was to get in on the growth of the wine industry that was taking place in that area by growing grapes they were going to then sell to local wineries. While their efforts in viticulture were a success, they eventually decided to get into the winemaking business for themselves and created a winery at Silverado Vineyards in the early 1980s. Although both Lillian Disney and Diane Disney Miller have since both passed away, Diane's husband Ron and his children still own and operate the winery at Silverado Vineyards, which now includes 6 different estate vineyards. Several of the estate vineyards are located in the famous Stag's Leap District and are known for producing outstanding California-style Cabernet Sauvignon-based wines. The third wine we tasted was the Silverado Cabernet Sauvignon Stag's Leap District. The wine is made from fruit that's sourced from principally 2 different vineyards, the Stag's Leap Vineyard and the St. George Vineyard. And the one thing that both of those vineyards have in common are their gravelly soils and excellent drainage. The wine itself is roughly 93% Cabernet Sauvignon, with the balance being made up of Merlot, Petit Verdot, and Cabernet Franc. In the glass, the wine is a beautiful dark red in color, and on the nose it has great aromas of black cherry and plum, herbs, pepper, coffee, and loam. As far as taste, it has upfront notes of cherry and raspberry that are well integrated with the flavors that come from the oak, as well as some minerality and some cocoa powder notes. It's medium to full in body and has plenty of structure that balance the fruit and the oak excellently.
Like with any wine, it's not the name on the label that matters, it's what's in the bottle that counts. But just because someone made their name and fame outside of the world of wine originally doesn't mean they can't be a good wine producer today. There are some really good celebrity wines, and there are some not so good celebrity wines. The best way to find out which one's which is by trying them, and I hope you will. Thanks for joining us for this episode of Let's Talk About Wine. Hope you'll join us again, and in the meantime, cheers.